Hello, welcome to the Creative You podcast, also known as Shine Baby Shine. The last episode I mentioned that I forgot to tell you my name, and then in telling you that, I didn't tell you my name. My name is Catherine Kirby. I own a yarn shop in McSherrystown, Pennsylvania, which is a little drive-through town on the edge of McSherrystown that is on the way to Gettysburg. Gettysburg is only about 16 miles away. We love to go to Gettysburg. Their visitor center is amazing. People are there from all over the world, and yet some of our locals don't go. It's like, come on, people, get a fire under you and go. I gotta make sure I'm recording here. I think I am. So I'm back, and I got lots of magical, amazing projects. And if you've listened to me, I refuse to call my beautiful things FOs. I was listening to this show and she said, I got a lot of whips. Do you have a lot of whips? And I'm thinking, suppose you were learning the English language and you turned on a podcast. They said, I have a lot of whips. A lot of whips. Do you have a lot of whips? I can't do it, guys. I can't call my beautiful things whips and UFOs and FOs. Objects. They're not objects to me. I suppose you went into a woodworker's studio and he said, oh, I have an object to show you. I don't think I'd be that into it. And I'm into my yarn and knitting and crocheting. This episode, I'm going to show you a lot of Knitting Fever and Your Yarn products. They're a wonderful company. Last year when I was having a lot of issues, the doctor thought my husband had cancer of the blood. She was pretty sure he did. All the tests pointed to that. I'm a doctor, so of course I'm going to look over everything. I drew the same conclusion. When I was at the shop, every time there wasn't a customer, I'm in the bathroom crying. I'm organizing yarn, dripping tears over everything. And at this point, we hadn't told anyone. I was getting behind in my bills. My credit card got hacked. Just lots of issues. And Sion, the owner of Knitting Fever, he called me and he talked to me for about an hour and a half. Told me how much he cared about me, how much he wanted me to succeed. And he gave me a payment plan, and I'm welling up with tears talking about this. So that company's been very good to me, and I love their yarns. They have a lot of different yarns, and I'm going to show you a bunch of their different yarns. So if I were British, I'd say, hey, crack away. But I always wanted to say that. Crack away. So we're going to crack away. I'm going to start out by showing you a couple photos. Ellen Bibb, who comes in here, did the Brickless Shawl by Martina Bem. Let me maybe get a better picture here. Ellen loves to knit shawls and socks, and she visits the yarn shop with her sister, Linda. There's a long ways view. Linda's also made a lot of shawls and a lot of beautiful things. And when they come, joy just enters the shop. She did that with one skein of Louisa Harding Gurandola, which is kind of a different name. And now that I know that what I see backwards, you see okay, I don't have to keep apologizing. This color is called Over the Rainbow. It's 42% cotton, 40% acrylic, and 18% viscose. It's about a DK weight. And you get 612 yards, so plenty of yarn to do the brickless. And I'm going to be talking about Louisa Harding. I private messaged her once, and she wrote back right away. She's a beautiful person. She's been designing for a long time. Now I'm going to show you a pattern from Interweave Knits that came out in the fall, and they focus on Southwestern patterns. And one of the patterns was called Whitehorn Shawl by Courtney Spainhauer. And they used a Latvian braid. Very, very pretty. Nancy Lunsford, who comes in here every Wednesday for the You and Me, or the Woolly Wednesday, or whatever you want to call it, used Juniper Moon. We've talked about Juniper Moon, Moonshine Chunky, and she made this shawl, and she knitted it up fast. Moonshine has this hazy look, like moonlight on color. It's 3 yarns, 40% alpaca, 40% wool, 20% silk. Comes in worsted and chunky. Sorry for the flopping. And anyway, my husband turned out not to have cancer. Huge weight lifted off, both of us. And then when we told our kids, it didn't sound like anything. Oh, we thought we did, but I don't. They're like, okay, okay. So we went through the suffering and spared them. So here was Nancy's shawl. That's a back view. Oh, all of a sudden my pictures are going crazy, fast forwarding. So give me a minute to find that. She loved the result. She wears it with pride. And most of the things that she knits are garments and things that she can wear. Some things for her grandchildren. Wow, where is it? That'll give me a little chance to talk to you about how your week is going and what you've been doing. You always ask what's new, and you don't want to be stagnant. Look what happens to stagnant water. And if you're knitting or crocheting, always learn something new. Don't be afraid to learn something new, a new technique. Don't be afraid to try a new yarn. I had bamboo yarn, and a lot of people were just afraid of bamboo. People bring yarn up to the counter. Is this going to pill? Is this going to this? It's like, well, I don't think so, but I can't bank my life on it. But don't be afraid. Okay, so while I'm at this picture, I'm going to show it to you, and I'll come back to it later. This is Sandy James' creation. Thought maybe I should call them Kisses Knitted Items, K-I-S. Look at this beautiful blanket done in 4 strips. The pattern is out of a Noro book, and I'll comment on that when I get to the KFI chromatic yarn. But isn't that gorgeous? And then the story gets better. She gave it to me. She gave it to me. She just had the fun knitting it and gave it to me. Never know what a day will hold, right? You never know. And that's Sandy. I hope she doesn't mind me showing you her picture. Sandy loves to do sweaters. She'll actually start feeling guilty about sweaters. Went through her closet, too many sweaters. And then she'll knit a bunch of things for charity, and then she'll go back to knitting her sweaters. Here we go. Here's Nancy. Man, I'm afraid to move this thing. There's Nancy in her white thorn shawl. And as you can see, she's very happy. There she is again. Just shows all those beautiful colors. All right, so that is Juniper Moonshine. I am surrounded by things. If I can stay organized, it'll be good. Okay, I am going to show you Ella Ray Lush Merino, which is buttery soft. Buttery soft. 100 grams, 66 yards, 100% wool. super bulky. Cute story about this yarn. The company gave me a scarf and hat. It's a $6 pattern made out of that lime color. There's the pattern. There's a hat that goes with this, and I had it displayed. And about 6 months later, when I changed the displays, you know, you got to be like Mother Nature and change your displays at least 4 times a year. A woman named Catherine came in, and usually she's by herself, but sometimes she has her husband. And he said, "Do you have that gray scarf that I like so much?" And people remember things off. You know, they think something's blue, it's orange, whatever. So I'm going through everything, and finally we came up with this. He's like, "Yeah, that, yeah." He says to his wife, "Can you make me a scarf out of that?" Well, you don't get a lot of yardage, and we're talking some money. And I saw the look of panic in her face, like, this was supposed to be my time to buy yarn for me. And then when he looked at the colors, he looked at her and said, "We may need two scarves." And she said, okay. And then that's all she was able to get. But she made him his scarves, and he's been quiet ever since when he comes along with her. But he is interested. And I said, you know, lots of guys knit and crochet, should think about it. You know, the Fruity Knitter podcast, he knits. Bakery Bears podcast, Dan knits. There are lots of guys that knit. Guys used to knit. Sailors, shepherds. You know, it's a mechanical thing. Knit meant to tie knots. At my last podcast, I think, I said that I wanted to find out the origin of the word sweater. And I said to my husband, who constantly amazes me with his wealth of information, Paul, "What do you think when you hear the word sweater?" And he said, "I think of something that makes me sweat," back when I grew up. And my husband is 13 years older. He grew up in Baltimore when the harbor was a working harbor and it stank of fish. And when you went to the harbor to get your fresh food every day, the Iceman brought you a block of ice. The Arab brought you vegetables on his horse-drawn cart. It's amazing the technology that's happened in his lifetime. And he was right. I looked it up. Way back when men were rowing, it was a garment that made them sweat and maybe take off some weight. And then in the, was it the 40s, they had the sweater girls who were shapely, and it just kind of evolved. The British jumper, they had tunics that they wore over jumpers, and then jumper was like almost like an artist's smock, and it just became standard language. A sweater was a jumper. So this is more lush yarn. Aren't those colors gorgeous? And this is called Whipped Cream Cow. It's a free Ravelry pattern, and I'm sorry I didn't write down the name of the designer. This is a one skein project. Another lush is the Sunkissed Neck Warmer by Ninon. Another free pattern, one skein. I remember those crisscrosses were fun. I don't remember how I did it, but I do remember I enjoyed it, and that means a lot. I usually tell people if you're not enjoying your project, it's either the needles, the pattern, or the yarn. It's one of the three. This was called Cheeto Scarf by Laurie Perry. You make these cute little loops at the bottom. And this was another colorway of Lush. This was done on big needles. The shawl that you see in the back in the window was Easily, which was done in Noro Silk Garden Sock. She had another color. This was Darn Knit Quick mittens done with a super bulky yarn. This is one of the mittens. And Darn Knit Quick, who is Carly Stipe, also has the Darn Knit Quick Kinetic Cow. Oh, this is fun. Like 2 hours. You just double wrap, drop your stitches, and you're done. And it can look very different on thin yarn or bulky yarn. I've done this in Maple DK, and it did look different. That is that. This one was a broken rib stitch. Again, this yarn is so soft. You'd fall in love with it. Oh, it's just amazing. And then I had already showed this. This is the Perky Little Hat, which is a free Ravelry pattern, and it knits up in a few hours. You do the lacy part, and at Christmas, people were just making bunches of these because they are so fast. And even though the pattern says 80 to 85 yards, one skein of Lush is enough. Plenty. Okay, we just finish up with those and move on. I thought I would do some Louisa Harding yarns. This is one of the Louisa Harding patterns. It sells for $6. It's lightweight and nice. It's a wool silk blend. Look how pretty. And Ellen Bibb, who I showed you her picture earlier, agreed to make this for me as a sample. And the pattern calls for two different colors of the thinner Amatola. I have shown you patterns with the Amatola Grande, and whoops, there's the hat. There's the hat that goes to the scarf. Look at that neat pom-pom. Aren't they fun? Knitting Fever now has snap-on pom-poms, which I wish I had a pile here to show you, but I will show you sometime. And so the pattern calls for you to choose 2 colors of Amatola. And the 2 colors that I gave her, she was here knitting for a while, and I noticed that she kept looking at them, and I knew that she did not like the colors that I picked. I knew she didn't. And so before she left, I'm all in about maybe confronting people. Had a lot of practice in the medical industry. I picked this color, and then I picked a real bright rainbow color. But you could pick any color. But the 2 colors that I picked, I knew that she didn't like them. And I said, well, you know, just do it and we'll see. And when she came back, she was very happy. She loved doing it. The colors all went together. Reminds me of a picnic fruit salad. And one thing I learned in a lot of art classes is that neutral colors will make bright colors pop. When I was younger, everything was about bright colors. And one time my husband and I got to go to Hawaii, and we went to a gallery, and everything in there was really bright colors, red and yellow and oranges and turquoise. And you know what? It was kind of hard on the eyes. And then I went to art class, and she would put in very bright colors, and then she'd start edging them with a gray or a light tan. And it was amazing how the colors would just pop. And so it is good to have some neutrals. So when people come in, they buy this pattern, they have so much fun picking out their 2 colors, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like. So I want to tell you a little story about color. I used to know this chiropractor named Nadine Hayes. She had an office in Hanover, and I wanted to meet her because I wanted to know if I could refer patients. And I went inside, and it looked like this little teenager sitting at the desk, and it was her. She was 30, 30 couple, kept trying to talk her into having a baby girl, naming her after me. All these grandkids, and nobody's named after me or my middle name. And my husband has several, you know, my own dad. My dad's name is Reuben Arthur, and he never wanted children